Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome to another episode of Humaning. I'm Alina, and I'm so grateful you're here with us today. If you're new, Humaning is a place where we explore the art of being human, messy, magical, meaningful, all of it. And if you've been with us for a while, you know we love diving deep into those questions we all wrestle with. Today's topic is one I think a lot of us have danced with in our lives: letting go versus giving up. What's the difference? How do we know when to surrender and when we're just throwing in the towel? I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Elias. Hey, Elias.
Hey, Alina. Hey, everyone. So good to be here, as always. This is one of those topics I feel like we all keep circling around, whether it's relationships, careers, dreams, or even just old stories about ourselves. When do we let go and trust the flow of life? And when does that start to look like giving up on something or on ourselves? I have a lot of feelings about this, actually.
I know you do, and I can't wait to get into it with you. Before we dive deep, I just want to say, if you're finding these conversations meaningful, we'd love it if you'd take a moment to like, subscribe, and maybe even share this episode with someone you care about. It's a simple way to support the channel, and it helps us keep these soulful conversations going. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We really do appreciate it. So, Alina, I'm curious, when you hear letting go versus giving up, what comes up for you first? Is there a story or a time in your life when you really felt that tension?
Oh, definitely. I think about my early 20s, actually. I was in this relationship that, honestly, was just not working. But I'd invested so much energy, so much hope, this idea of what it could be. There was this tug of war inside. If I walk away, am I letting go for my own growth, or am I giving up on love, on commitment? It was such a struggle, and what I eventually realized was that letting go, for me, felt like an act of trust in life. It was about releasing my grip, trusting that if I let this go, something better, maybe not even a relationship, maybe just a deeper sense of myself, could come in. Giving up felt heavy, like shame, like failure. But letting go felt like opening a window and letting fresh air in. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. I love that image of opening a window. It's interesting because I think so many of us equate letting go with failure, when really sometimes it's the most courageous thing we can do. I had a similar experience, but with a creative project. I was working on this poetry manuscript for, 3 years. I kept pushing, trying to force it into shape, but at some point I realized I wasn't inspired anymore. I kept asking myself, if I stop, am I giving up on my art? Or am I letting go of something that's not meant to come through me right now? It was tough. But when I finally set it aside, it was like a weight lifted. And weirdly, new poems started coming to me almost immediately. But they weren't connected to that old project. It was like making space for something new.
Yes. That's such a powerful example. I think that's the paradox, right? Sometimes, letting go is what actually allows the new life, the new energy, to flow in. It's not about quitting, it's about trusting. But it's so hard because we live in this culture that's obsessed with perseverance, with grit, with never give up. And there's value in persistence, for sure. But sometimes it's like we're white-knuckling things that are actually asking to be released.
Right? There's that quote, I forget who said it, but something like, letting go is not giving up, but accepting that there are things that cannot be. It's pragmatic, but it's also deeply spiritual. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is to stop forcing, stop grasping, and just allow ourselves to be where we are.
I love that. And I think about how nature shows us this all the time. Trees let their leaves go in autumn, not because they failed as trees, but because it's time. It's part of their cycle. They trust that new leaves will come. There's this wisdom to letting go, this alignment with the deeper rhythms of life.
That's so beautiful. And it makes me wonder, why do you think we have such a hard time letting go? Is it fear? Is it ego? What's underneath that resistance, do you think?
Such a good question. I think it's a cocktail of things. Fear of the unknown, definitely. Our egos get attached to outcomes, to identities. If I let go of this relationship, who am I without it? Or if I leave this job, what does that mean about my worth? There's also this fear that if we let go, nothing better will come. So we cling, even if it's to something that's not serving us. It's like we'd rather have the certainty of discomfort than the discomfort of uncertainty.
Wow, yes. Certainty of discomfort versus discomfort of uncertainty. That's so true. I think there's also this shame piece, like, if I let this go, what will people think? There's this failure narrative that can be so loud, especially in our achievement-oriented society. I remember when I left my corporate job to pursue writing, people were supportive, but I could sense some folks thought I was just giving up on being successful. But for me, staying was giving up on myself. Leaving was actually an act of self-respect, even though it looked like surrender from the outside.
That's such an important distinction. Sometimes the bravest thing is to let go of what's not aligned, even if nobody else understands. And I think the inner voice, that quiet knowing, is really the guide here. I always ask myself, am I moving from love or from fear? Is this letting go because I'm running away or because I'm moving towards something truer?
Yes, that's such a great self-inquiry. I try to tune into my body too. When I'm forcing, clinging, trying to make something work, I feel tense, tight, almost like holding my breath. But when I'm letting go from a place of wisdom, there's a softness, a relief. It's almost physical.
Absolutely. The body never lies. And I think it's worth saying that letting go doesn't mean we don't care or that the thing doesn't matter. Sometimes it's because it matters so much that we need to release it, to let it find its own life, or to let ourselves be free to receive what's next.
I love that reframe. And it's interesting too because sometimes what we need to let go of isn't a person or a job or a project, but an old story about ourselves. Like I'm not creative or I always mess things up. Those narratives can be so sticky.
Yes, yes, yes. Internal letting go is sometimes the hardest, isn't it? I remember working with a meditation teacher years ago who said, "What if you put down the story just for a day and see what happens?" It was mind-blowing. I realized how tightly I was holding on to these self-definitions, even the painful ones, because they felt familiar. But when I let them go, even for a short time, I felt so much lighter, like anything was possible.
That's beautiful. And sometimes I think the confusion between letting go and giving up comes from that internal voice, the critic that says, you're just taking the easy way out. But letting go, when it's conscious and loving, is actually the harder path most of the time. It requires faith. It asks us to trust what we can't see yet.
That's so true. It's an act of courage, really. And sometimes I think letting go isn't a one-time thing. It's a practice. We let go, and then we notice we're holding on again, and we let go again. It's like waves on the shore.
Absolutely, it's not linear. And sometimes letting go looks like setting boundaries or saying no, or just allowing ourselves to grieve what's not working. I think we can be so hard on ourselves, expecting to just move on instantly. But real letting go can be a slow, gentle process.
I love that you brought up grief. I think that's often missing from these conversations. Even if we know something isn't right for us, there's still loss when we let it go. And that's okay. It's human. We can honor that sadness, honor what we're releasing, even as we trust the process.
Yes, grief is such a wise teacher. And, I've found that when I allow myself to really feel the loss instead of pushing it away or judging it, something new opens up, almost like the heart gets bigger, has more room for what's next. Have you ever felt that?
Definitely. I think feeling the grief is how we stay open. It's like compost. It nourishes the soil for new growth. When we skip that part, we can get stuck, holding on to the old, afraid to really step into the unknown.
That's such a rich metaphor. Composting our losses. It's true. I think if I had to sum up my own experience, letting go is about release with love, with intention. Giving up for me feels like collapse, like resignation. Letting go is active, even if it looks like surrender from the outside.
Yes, there's an energy to it. Letting go is an act of faith, of saying, I trust that I am held, even if I don't know what's next. It's soft, but it's powerful.
And maybe it's about listening deeply, really tuning in to what life is asking of us in this moment. Sometimes the bravest thing is to stay. Sometimes the bravest thing is to leave. It's not one size fits all.
Right? There's no formula, only presence, honesty, and self-compassion. I think if we can hold ourselves gently, trust the wisdom of our own hearts, we'll know what to do.
I love that. Presence, honesty, self-compassion. It sounds so simple, but in practice, it's really the work of a lifetime, isn't it? I'm thinking about all the little moments, not just the big life decisions, but even the small, everyday things we hold on to. An argument we keep replaying, an expectation for how our day should go, or even just a grudge. Sometimes letting go is just choosing not to carry that heaviness for another hour.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes the hardest things to let go of are the tiniest, stickiest things. Like, for me, if someone says something that hurts my feelings, part of me wants to just stew in it, you know? Justify my hurt, replay the story over and over. But if I catch myself, if I can pause and ask, is this worth holding on to? Sometimes I realize it's really not. Letting it go doesn't mean it didn't matter, but it gives me my peace back.
That resonates so much. I think we're taught that letting go means forgetting, but that's not really it. It's more like choosing not to let it define our energy in the present. It's an act of freedom. I had a mentor who used to say, you can put down the stone you've been carrying, even if someone else handed it to you. I love that image. We're so quick to pick up burdens, other people's expectations, old regrets, even imagined futures.
That's such a powerful visual. And it's true, we're almost conditioned to carry what isn't ours. I sometimes ask my clients, whose voice is that, really, when they're stuck in self-doubt or guilt? So often, it's not even their own. It's a parent, or a teacher, or just the culture's voice. When we let go, we make space to hear ourselves, maybe for the first time.
Yeah, and it can be a little scary, right? When you let go of all the noise, what's left is you, your raw, unfiltered self. Sometimes we don't even know who that is if we've been living for other people or holding on to old identities.
For sure. But there's also something really liberating in that. Like, wow, I get to choose. I get to meet myself anew. I think about the metaphor of the butterfly, how the caterpillar literally dissolves before it becomes something new. There's that messy, in-between time where it's just goo. That's what letting go can feel like sometimes. Uncomfortable, undefined, but necessary for transformation.
The goo phase. I love that. I feel like I've lived in the goo for years at different points in my life. And it's not pretty, but there's so much growth happening under the surface. I guess the invitation is to be gentle with ourselves in that space, to trust that the process is working, even if we can't see the outcome yet.
Exactly. Sometimes we only realize the wisdom of letting go in hindsight. In the moment, it can feel like chaos, like loss. But later, we look back and see, oh, that was the turning point. That was when I made space for what I really needed. Have you had a moment like that, where you only understood the gift of letting go much later?
Oh, definitely. The biggest one for me was probably leaving a long-term relationship. It felt like failure at the time. There was grief, guilt, all of it. But looking back, I can see how my life opened up after that. New friendships, new creative energy, even just a deeper relationship with myself. I wouldn't have believed it was possible in those first few months. But now I see that letting go was the doorway to everything that came after.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so vulnerable, and I think a lot of people will resonate. It's so hard to see the promise of what's next when we're in the thick of loss. That's where faith comes in, I guess. Not necessarily faith in a specific outcome, but faith that we'll be okay, that we're held by something bigger than ourselves.
Yes, and it's so interesting. Sometimes even when we give up on something, it's not the end of the story. I've had things I thought I'd left behind. Old dreams, creative interests, come back in a new form years later when I was ready to meet them differently. Have you ever had that happen?
Absolutely. I actually used to dance when I was younger, and I stopped for a long time. I thought I'd given up, that it was over. But a few years ago, I started moving to music again, just for myself, in my living room. It wasn't about performing or achieving anything. It was just joy, expression. In some ways, letting go of the old form allowed a new, more authentic version to emerge.
That's so beautiful. It makes me think about how sometimes the things we let go of aren't lost. They're just transformed. Maybe that's the real difference between letting go and giving up. Letting go trusts in transformation. Giving up believes in an ending.
I love that so much. Letting go is open-ended, spacious. Giving up feels closed, final. And maybe the invitation, when we're not sure, is just to be curious. What happens if I let go, even a little? What space is created? What wants to grow here?
That's such a gentle way to approach it. Curiosity instead of judgment. I think so many of us fear that if we let go, we'll just be left with emptiness. But in my experience, that emptiness is actually fertile ground. It's where inspiration and possibility live.
Yes, and it's where we meet ourselves, maybe for the first time. I think about those moments in meditation, or just walking in nature, when I'm not holding on to any agenda or identity. That's when the deepest peace comes through. It's not nothingness, it's everythingness.
Everythingness. That's a word I want to steal. And even with spiritual practice, sometimes we have to let go of the practice itself, like the idea that we have to meditate every day or be perfectly mindful. Sometimes letting go is just being human, allowing ourselves to be messy and real.
Yes, yes, yes. Spiritual bypassing is a real thing. If we're using our practices to avoid feeling, to avoid being present with what is, then maybe we need to let go of the shoulds and just let ourselves be. I love the phrase, nothing to fix, nothing to force, just this.
That's beautiful. And it brings me back to the heart of today's topic, letting go versus giving up. Maybe it's not about the external thing at all, but about our relationship to ourselves. Are we abandoning ourselves? Or are we honoring what's true for us in this moment?
I think you just summed it up perfectly. It's all about intention, about self-honoring. And sometimes, we need support to find that clarity. I know I've leaned on friends, mentors, even therapy to help me see what I couldn't see on my own.
Absolutely. There's no shame in asking for help. Sometimes the most loving thing is to say, I can't do this alone. Whether it's letting go or holding on, community can help us discern what's true.
Yes. And speaking of community, I just want to say again how grateful we are for all of you listening. This space wouldn't exist without you. If this conversation is resonating, or if you have your own stories about letting go or giving up, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. It really does mean so much to us.
Truly. And if you haven't yet, please do like, subscribe, and share this episode. It helps more people find humaning, and it lets us know these conversations are meaningful. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.
Before we wrap up, Elias, do you have any practices or questions you use when you're trying to tell the difference between letting go and giving up?
That's a great question. One thing I do, honestly, is journal. I'll ask myself, if I let go of this, what am I afraid will happen? What am I hoping will happen? And I try to write without censoring myself. Usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. I also sit quietly and notice how my body feels when I imagine letting go versus holding on. There's an intuitive wisdom there, if I'm willing to listen. Sometimes I even talk it out with a trusted friend, because hearing myself say it out loud can clarify what's really true.
I love that. I do something similar, but with meditation. I'll sit and just breathe and imagine whatever it is I'm holding onto as an object in my hands. Then I'll visualize setting it down, just for a moment. How does that feel? Sometimes I realize I'm not ready yet, and that's okay. Other times, there's a profound sense of relief. The body really knows.
Yes, and it's okay to take it slow. We don't have to let go all at once. Sometimes it's a process of loosening our grip finger by finger. There's no rush.
That's such a gentle way to put it. And for anyone listening who's in the thick of it right now, just know you're not alone. These are such human questions. We're all learning as we go.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling lost, or like you can't tell if you're letting go or giving up, just know that's normal. Sometimes we don't know until later. Trust the process, trust yourself, and be kind to your heart.
I love that. Maybe we can end with a little invitation. If you're listening right now, take a breath. Notice, where are you holding on, and where might you be ready to let go, even just a little? And can you meet yourself there with compassion, no matter what the answer is?
Beautiful. And maybe ask yourself, what if letting go isn't failure, but an opening? What might want to grow in that space? Just let it be a curiosity, not a demand.
I love that so much. Thank you, Elias, for this beautiful conversation.
Thank you, Alina. It's always such a gift to share this space with you and with all of you listening. Truly, thank you for being here with us on Humaning.
We hope this episode gave you something to reflect on, or maybe even just a little more gentleness for yourself. If it did, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear these words today.
And let us know your thoughts in the comments, your stories, your questions. They really are what make this community feel so alive.
Until next time, take care of your beautiful, messy selves. Keep humaning, keep being gentle, and keep trusting your own journey.
We'll see you next time. Take good care, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye.